Information, please. Presented each week at this time by Canada Dry, famous the world over for its fine beverages. Wake up, America. Time to stump the experts. Each week at this time, Information, please, supplies you with 4 experts. You shoot us questions with the right answers, and we bat them out at our authorities. You may submit from 1 to 3 original questions per letter. If your question is used, you receive $5 and $10 additional if it stumps the board. So you may win $15 in all. Don't get hot and bothered if our editorial staff changes or edits your question slightly. All questions become the property of Information, please. Letters with questions are to be addressed to Canada Dry, 1 Pershing Square, New York City. Now here's our master of ceremonies, Mr. Clifton Fadiman, literary critic of the New Yorker magazine. Mr. Fadiman.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Ladies and gentlemen of the radio audience, you are listening to a program which is as free as the wind, unrehearsed, and unpredictable. On our board of authorities this evening, we have 3 veterans. The amazing expert on everything, including sports, Mr. John Kieran, the famous versifier and columnist to the New York Post, Mr. Franklin P. Adams, better known as FBA, and our irrepressible authority on music, movies, and what have you, Mr. Oscar Levant, recent winner of new laurels as the musical director of the new smash hit, The American Way. As our guest of honor, Information, please, is proud to announce the name of an American known from coast to coast as public servant, Scripps Howard journalist, hard-hitting controversialist, General Hugh Johnson. And this is a good time to announce that General Johnson is chairman of the Greater New York Committee for the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis, a worthy leader of a worthy cause. Now that looks like a pretty solid quartet, but they're not infallible. If or when they miss, Canada Dry's cash register will ring up $10, going out to the clever questioner. All right, gentlemen, here we go. The first question comes from Miss Susan B. Dunn of Scarsdale, New York. She wants you to quote, to give 5 familiar expressions which place animals or insects in unusual surroundings. For example, a fly in the ointment. Let's have 5 more like that. Mr. Kieran.
Well, I'll take it. A dog in the manger.
Dog in the manger is all right. That'd be very good. That's 1. Mr. Levant.
The one about ants.
In the?
Ants.
Ants in the pants. The thing to do, of course, is to have ants in the pants. Isn't this right, General Johnson, to have iron pants? Yeah. That would be 2. Mr. Adams.
Bee in the bonnet.
Bee in the bonnet, yes. That's 3. Mr. Levant.
Kitten on the keys.
Getting on the keys, the musical one. That's 4.
My racket.
Thanks for the plug. 1 more.
Fly in amber.
A fly in amber. Very good, General Johnson. General Johnson, did you ever have any trouble placing a blue eagle in unusual surroundings at any time? Speaking of 5...
Put him in a good many surroundings. That
Yeah.
ants in pants business was ants of conscience in the pants.
Oh, you're breaking down and confessing all this evening, General, eh? Thank you very much. That's 5 out of 5. Let's see what you can do with the next one. This comes from Mr. A. Linscott of Atlanta, Georgia. Suppose you were called upon as a judge to pass upon the constitutionality of the following 3 acts. What would you decide? 1. The President appoints a physician to the Supreme Court bench. Constitutional? Unconstitutional? General Johnson.
Constitutional.
How would you explain that?
Because there's no requirement whatever that the appointees to the Supreme Bench will be a lawyer.
Yes, they just happen to be, more or less by accident, I
A
suppose.
lot of them happen to be members of Congress, too.
Yes. 2, the House of Representatives. This seems like a pretty good idea. The House of Representatives chooses Groucho Marx to be its speaker. That's better than Harpo Marx, anyway. Chooses Groucho Marx to be its speaker. Constitutional? Unconstitutional? General Johnson.
Unconstitutional.
Why would it be unconstitutional?
Because the Speaker of the House has got to be a member of the House.
Is that true?
That is true.
Well, now, I may be wrong about this, but I understand that in Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5, just came to me like a bolt from the blue, Constitution merely states that the House of Representatives may choose their own Speaker and other officers, and does not indicate that that the Speaker must necessarily come from the House, so the tradition is...
No, but the implication is so strong in the fact that
true.
the man has a vote under certain circumstances. True. They certainly couldn't reach out and appoint a man to a Speaker of the House who hadn't been elected by any constituency, he would have a vote on any legislation.
That seems perfectly reasonable to me.
That's
but it
the
still
end
might be constitutional to have Groucho Marx as the Speaker.
I'm against it.
Well, that's one vote against Groucho Marx.
I'm for it. We split.
A citizen in New York sues Senator Spellbinder for a slanderous attack made on the radio. Is such a suit constitutional or unconstitutional? I have to count you wrong on that second one, by the way. General Johnson.
Well, it isn't really a question of whether it's constitutional or unconstitutional. The question is whether he can recover or not.
Well, the question is whether...
I believe that he can recover on the ground that a statement made outside of the official duties of a congressman or senator is actionable. Of course, it clearly is not actionable if it's made in connection with a debate on the floor of either house or in connection with his official duties.
That's quite right. The congressmen are not liable for what they say on the floor of the House. But they are liable for statements made elsewhere. Maybe they ought to be kept permanently elsewhere. That's possible. That's two out of three. I think that's going to cost Canada Dry $10, unless we get some constitutional authority to declare you right on question number 2. Thank you. The next question from Miss Cora W. Forsberg of Seattle, Washington. Now, this is a literary question. I hope the General, who is a literary authority, as many people do not know, is going to come in on this one. How do the following characters, who appear in well-known poems, meet their deaths in those poems? You've got to get 4 out of 5 on this. 1, Elaine.
Elaine the Lovely, the lily made of Esther?
Don't sell her to me, Oscar. Miss Kieran.
Well, she died of grief and was put on a barge and floated down the river, down the Thames River.
Yes. In what poem?
The dead, oared by the dumb, went upward with the flood.
That's very pretty, Mr.
That's
Kieran.
from Idols of the King by Tennyson.
I think from The Lady of Shalott. Would it be The Lady of Shalott?
No, sir.
Oh, from the Idols of the King. I beg your pardon. You're quite
Carried
right.
a torch.
That's 1. 2, the gingham dog and the calico cat. How did they meet their death? The gingham dog and the calico cat, Mr. Kieran. Careful now. Let me get you nervous, Mr. Kieran.
They tore each other to pieces.
Not quite. Not quite. Mr. Adams, are you shaking your head at that ruefully?
Never heard of him.
Oh, yes, you have. There in your line was written by a great hero of yours. Poem written by one of your...
They died from neglect. They were usually...
No. They, sorry, General. May have been an idea. They ate each other up. It's from the famous poem about the gingham dog and the calico cat, known as The Duel, by Eugene Field, Mr. Adams.
I started to tell you that, and you wouldn't let me finish.
Did you have another sentence on the tip of your tongue? Oh, you come back next week, and I'll correct
I
that.
usually can get it out.
That's one wrong. How did Minnehaha die? Minnehaha.
That's a flower to bake cake.
No, Minnehaha isn't a flower, is it really?
No, I'm wrong.
Part of it is.
He starved.
General Johnson. Starved to death, yes. Minnehaha starved to death. From what poem?
Hiawatha.
Yes, in Longfellow's Song of Hiawatha.
Goochie Woochie.
That's 2 right out of 3. What are you muttering to yourself, Mr.
The poem by Longfellow, On the Shores of Goochie Hoochie.
I think I ought to give you a chance to recite that for us this evening. How did Gunga Din die? Gunga Din. Mr. Kieran.
Struck the bullet with his skin.
Yes, a bullet come and drilled the beggar clean. From what poem?
Gunga Din.
Yes, of course. I hinted it to you. And who wrote Gunga Din?
The late Rudyard Kipling.
Very good. Now we have to get the next one right, or we fail. The crew of the Nancy Bell. How did the crew of the Nancy Bell die, Mr. Adams?
They ate each other up.
Who did? Who ate whom?
Calico.
The cook and the captain bold and the mate of the Nancy brig.
Yes.
Bosun tight and the midshipman might.
That's right.
Crew of the
captain's gig.
Yes. Well, who was left? Anybody left?
An ancient seaman.
Yes, there was one surviving
Me.
sailor. I beg pardon?
Me. And only me and the cook was left. And the delicate question, which of us 2 goes to the pot, arose, and we argued it out as such, and me won.
Atta boy. That's right. Me won. Nice work if you can
An
digest.
elderly naval man he was.
I know they want to go through this whole poem. I don't know how I'm going to head them off. The only way to head them off is to go on to the next question. Well, we got 4 out of 5 on that. The next question comes all the way from California, Berkeley, California. Mr. John Caffrey sends it in. Now, let's see what we can do with this. One man will have to answer these 2 questions. I'll read the 2 questions. Two horses compete in a mile race. One holds the record for running, the other for trotting. On which would you place your bet, and why? I'll read the next question, because the man who raises his hand has to answer both questions. Now, you digest that. 2, presuming each to be a champion in his class, who can broad jump the farthest, a frog or a man? By the way, this question comes to us from Mr. William Halsey of Grand Prairie, Edmonton, Canada. Now, who wants to take that question? Or rather, those two questions. General Johnson? Very good. In the first one...
The record for a running horse is much less time than the record for a trotting horse.
You'd place your bets, therefore...
On the running horse.
Very shrewd of you. That's quite right, General. Do you know the exact time, Mr. Kieran, for the
Well,
records?
I think the running time is about 1:34 and a fraction, and the pacing and trotting time are about 1:56.
That's remarkable. The exact figures are 1:34 and 2/5 and 1:55 and 1/4, which is hitting the nose practically. Very good indeed, Mr. Kieran. Now the second one, General, you have to take the second part of the question. Presuming each to be a champion in his class, who can broad jump the farthest, a frog or a man?
A man.
A man. Want to give us some figures on that?
I'm just guessing.
All right,
but I think the broad jump goes to about 17 feet for a man, and the frog can't jump more than 4 or 5.
A little more than that, I think. Mr. Kieran, do you want to enlarge the general figures?
26 feet 8 and a fraction inches for Jesse Owens.
26 feet 10, to be exact.
Well,
in 1935. That's near enough.
That's running.
Boy, that's some going. How about the frog?
Running broad jump?
What's the record for a frog? Record for a frog? Don't you cover frog jumps at all, Mr. Kieran?
Mark Twain forgot to give the statistics of his
That's right.
frog.
But to celebrate, as
He's
a matter of
full of
fact, now
shots,
that you speak of Mark Twain, to celebrate that famous story of the jumping frog, in 1938 they held a frog jumping carnival, and a frog jumped 15 feet, 10 inches.
It was fixed.
You think so? They hit the whole race. As a matter of fact, it's a very inferior performance because in order to make the frog jump, you have to tickle him, but you don't have to tickle Jesse Owens, do you, Mr. Kieran? Jumps by himself. Very good, General Johnson. Thank you. I hope you're not a betting man, General Johnson.
Not on frogs with
Not on frogs.
shot in their stomachs.
Next question comes to us from John Caffrey of Berkeley, California. Our pianist is going to play some passages of 3 famous compositions. Now, Mr. Levant, and only Mr. Levant, is asked to prove that he recognizes them, not by words, but by playing on the second piano a principal theme of each. That sounds like a tough one to me. Get over to the piano there, Mr. Levant. Now, the pianist is going to play some passages of 3 famous compositions. Let's have the first one. Mr. Levant has to go on. Yeah, that's right enough. It's, of course, from Rachmaninoff's
They
Prelude
do all
in
the
C minor.
poems. I like to play the whole piece.
You want to do that? Some other program, Mr. Levant. All right, let's have number 2. That's pretty. Go ahead, spoil it, Mr. Levant. I guess that's right enough.
That's Schumann, the Schubert Unfinished Symphony.
Very good.
That isn't the main theme. That's the second movement.
Would you like to go on to the main theme?
Why not? They do those poems all day.
Or let's have a few notes of the main theme. Oh, that sounds much mainer than the other. Yes, I like that. That's very good. All right, let's have number 3.
That's Beethoven.
I know, but that's not playing it.
That's the introduction, I think, to the A minor, the Seventh Symphony of
Yeah.
Beethoven.
All right, let's have the major theme. That right enough?
Not
Okay.
enough for me.
All right, Mr. Levant, come on right back. Come on, we want to get some of these other boys in now. Once you get them at the piano, you can't get them away from it. Thank you very much, Mr. Levant. Now let's see what you can do with this one. Mrs. Harry Propson of Chicago, Illinois, wants you to give an up-to-date equivalent for each of the following examples of Grandma's slang. Better make that grandpa, just in case there's some grandmas listening in. There are 4 of them. No, 5.